For today I'm just gonna do one example. I'm sorry for that, I didn't have enough time. We're just gonna do one example where I show you how to solve third-degree polynomials. You need to understand with third-degree polynomials, we normally call them it's cubic functions. Basically, we're gonna do cubic functions later on, but what I want you to understand with this is that you just factorize it the same way you have factorized under binomial or under trinomials. The first step that you're gonna do is to find what is referred to as a factor, and I will explain what a factor is, and then from there, after finding a factor, you just have to work backwards to make sure that you find every coefficient of whatever is given in those factors. But I'll show you thoroughly how to do it. Okay, I'm just going to do number 1 for you, and then you're going to do 2 up to 6. Okay, now factorizing trinomial. So I'm going to factorize this quickly for you. Find a factor through trial and error. So basically use your calculator. Wherever there's x, substitute any possible integer, all right, until you find an integer that will give you an answer of 0. Now in this case I tried out 1. Okay, so you can try out, I normally start from -5 up to +5. One of those should work. Okay, now in this case I tried out 1 and 1 worked out perfectly well. Okay, now what I did here, when you substitute 1 where there's x, you realize that the original equation, wherever there's x in the original equation, all I did was just to substitute 1. Is through trial and error. You just have to guess any value until you find a value that gives you 0. Now you substitute this into the original equation, it will give you 0. This means that x is equals to 1 will be a factor, right? Now if it's a factor, you just have to work backwards. Before you got to x is equals to 1, before that it was x minus 1 is equals to 0. Okay, but because we are dealing with a trinomial, understand a trinomial has a degree of 3. It means that you need to at least find 2 x solutions, but in essence there should be 3x solutions, right? I'm saying 2 because at times you'll get the same x value, right? Now what I did here is that I knew that since x minus 1 is my factor, the other factor will be a trinomial. Okay, now question is, how did I find the values that went into the trinomial factor? I asked myself, when I multiply the first terms of these brackets, they need to give me the first term. When I multiply the first terms of each bracket, they need to give me the first term of the original equation. Okay, so I knew that if I have x as the first term in the first bracket, the first term in the second bracket will be x squared. So basically you just take the first term in the first bracket, you square it, and then in this case obviously if you take x and square it, it'll give you x squared. Okay, and then obviously I have -1, and then I ask myself, what must I multiply with -1 for me to get a positive 8? Okay, so the last terms in each bracket, the last terms in each bracket, or in each of those given factors that we need trying to find, must give you the last term of the original equation. The last term in each bracket must give you the last term of the original equation. So basically I asked myself, what must I multiply with -1 for me to get positive 8? And the only value that I could come up with was -8. So I need to multiply -1 with -8 for me to get positive 8 in the original equation. Okay. Once I've done this, guys, you realize that with a trinomial, the only thing that I don't have is the coefficient of x, which is b. And I'm going to show you how to find that coefficient of x, okay? So basically, I simply multiplied -1 with x, -1 with x, and I will also multiply x with bx in the other bracket. So basically, guys, that bx, I know that the middle term in the trinomial must be something x. That's why I wrote it as bx, since I only managed to find the first term of the trinomial, and I only managed to find the last term of the trinomial. Now, I couldn't find the middle term of the trinomial. For me to be able to find the middle term of the trinomial, I have to use this formula, where I will take a -1 multiplied by x squared, and that will give me minus x squared. And I took x multiplied by bx, and I got bx squared. When you add this two, when you add bx squared with minus x squared, when you add bx squared with minus x squared, okay, so basically when you add this, because this is minus x squared and this is bx squared, they should give you a term that has x squared in the original equation. Okay, when you add minus x squared with bx squared, they must give you a term that has x squared in the original equation. All right, this formula, I prefer this formula because it's quite short and straight to the point. Okay, so all I did was simply to add minus x squared. I did show you how I got that minus x squared. I showed you how I got bx squared. So when I add minus x squared with bx squared, they should give me x squared in the original equation. Please note, if the original equation doesn't have x squared, then this minus x squared plus bx squared will be equal to 0x squared if the original equation didn't have that x squared. But in this case, it does have that x squared. So I'm just going to add the 2, and that will give me x squared. Now from here, divide everything by x squared. You'll be left with -1 plus b is equals to 1. Solve for b, and b will be equals to 1 plus 1, and that will be b is equals to 2. Take this and substitute it into the factors that we found. Now you'll realize that where there's b, I simply substituted 2, which is what I've just calculated, and this is what I wanted. Okay, now I have a binomial multiplied by a trinomial. When you multiply a binomial with a trinomial, it will give you a polynomial with the highest degree of 3. Okay, now all I did here was simply to fully factorize the trinomial, and this is what you will get. Okay, it will be x plus 4 and x minus 2. Now you can start solving for x, since you have your factors. X is equals to 1, or x is equals to -4, or x is equal to 2. Try out this method. Please do number 2 up to number 6.